Hello, everyone. This is Ben from ChargeShot.com, coming at you at an early look at a game that's going to be coming out within the next couple of days. It is Pantsu Hunter, Back to the 90s. This game, I'll sort of talk about what sort of got me in this game. So I like to browse the Nintendo eShop at least once a week minimum, maybe sometimes a little bit more, and I like to see what upcoming games are coming out. And this one caught my eye, namely for its art style, which you'll see momentarily as I sort of go over through the menus and stuff briefly. And what immediately drew me to this was its art style and how it's fitting with the title. It's called Back to the 90s, and it's very intentionally trying to draw you into a certain aesthetic, especially if you watch anime in the 90s. And let's face it, it's a lot of us. There was anime before the 90s, obviously, but there wasn't really a big anime explosion, at least until you had things like Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon, the two, Pokemon, obviously, too. And there's a certain way 90s anime looks. Same thing with 80s anime and 70s and 60s and even 60s anime. There's a certain style that even no matter what anime you watched, that's how everything gelled. Whether it's designs, hair color, haircuts, there's an aesthetic to it, and that's what this game does. In terms of its visual appeal, and that's what got me enough to want to check it out. And thanks to the developer, sometimes you for sending us a code so I could check this out early. And at first I thought this game was supposed to be a visual novel, because we don't really talk about those a lot. And before I go any further, no, this game is not a visual novel. It's actually a point and click game. Surprisingly enough, a very light point and click game, which I'll go into more. And I didn't know that until I actually started doing the recording for this. Because I just wanted to look at pretty anime girls and try to figure out how to get the best, which one do I want to date. So you may ask yourself, well, what's the point and click aspect of this? Well, being the game is titled Pantsu Hunter, the main character's name is Kenji, and the text that's on the screen is sort of going over his life. And basically, for some reason, he feels that in order to understand the women around him, to find his true love, is to look at their underwear. Yes, that is the premise of this game. I don't know why the underwear, because perfectly, if it was for me, it's just getting to know them would be enough. But he believes that the underwear says a lot about a woman. I don't know what to say about that, but either way, once you get past that, if you get past that, then it's basically about this guy trying to find love, and isn't that what we're all trying to do? We're all trying to find love in this crazy world out there, especially back in 1994. So there's as you can see, there's 6 total chapters, 2 a prologue and epilogue, and 3 girls, and then a hot springs episode, because of course it's a hot springs episode. You only have access to 1 chapter per timing, and I'll get into how you progress later on in the video. But as you see, there's multiple endings. There's a true ending, and then there's a different type of underwear you can find. So there's a lot to consume. There is, as a earlier chapter started, there is no saving in this game. So doing certain things will cause your journey to end and start at the very beginning. And while initially I thought that was going to be problematic, the amount of the areas at least in the first chapter, I can't speak for the second the second or third chapter this time because I haven't gone to them yet, or I haven't had a chance to play them. Every time I got an ending, and I think I get several that I show off in this video, I didn't feel too bad about starting over, because it just made me go, oh, what if I do this time? And I'll go into more detail when we get to it. But in sense, just to give a sort of basic rundown, this first girl you're meeting is Haruka, and you're going over to her place, and this is your perfect excuse to go to her place to fix her VCR, which, sorry, You remember that? What VCRs are, kids. I still have one in underneath my entertainment system. It's been there for years. I doubt it works anymore. Yeah. So enough about VCRs. You can just see kids right below on the TV onto the right. That's what the VCR looked like. But as you can see here, how it is voice acted, namely only from the girl's perspective, which is fine. I didn't expect it to be voice acted. So there's that. But this is what I was talking about in terms of its aesthetics. This is like, if you would have told me that Pantsu Hunter was a 90s anime that the West never got because it was too raunchy for the West, I would totally believe you. Like, they perfectly nailed the aesthetic of 90s anime, from the girls, from Haruka's character design to sort of the very simplistic backgrounds and even the music. And I think the music is my favorite part of this game so far. Is just how soothing it is. Like, when I first recorded this footage, I recorded it late on a Sunday night, and I was tired from a long day of work, and this game is not boring at all. I find it actually pretty engaging. And I kind of started finding myself nodding off a little bit just because it's just so relaxing. But here's the point and click aspect. If you press, I think it's Y on the Pro Controller, by the way, I'm playing on the Switch. I guess I should have mentioned at the beginning. Whatever. You can click on certain things, and just like a point and click, either some things will do things, and you can pick up certain things, and other things will do other things. And it's all, to me, I normally don't like point and click adventure games. They're just not for me. I don't find them bad, but there's a lot of them, to me, you have to do really convoluted stuff to get anywhere. And where I like this game more than anything, the other point and clicks, is that just by doing stupid stuff, like for instance, as you just saw, I walked into the bathroom, I walked into the water for some reason, which leads me to getting an ending coming up, which I like that, versus in like other, like I think the only point and clicks I can say I have experience with is Sam and Max, and I don't remember anything about how to progress in that game at all. So I like the idea of just experimenting. Well, what if I do this time? Is this going to give me a different ending? And I think I get at least 4 endings or 5 endings at this point. So yeah, if you're wary about point and clicks, don't be afraid to buy this game. At least me personally, because it's not super hardcore. There's no inventory system to manage. It's very relaxing. And here I actually get the first ending where I accidentally closed the door on her, and then the police show up, and because I was naked, they arrested me, which I find so funny. So yeah, and so I don't. Sorry, Haruka's voice kind of caught me off guard there. And again, as you can see here, I'm like, you can decide. You also have dialect choices, and you have to feel out. Initially, you have to feel like, well, what's the girl gonna say? But to me, the fun is guessing what they want to hear, because you don't know anything about these girls. You're kind of just thrown into it. You get a brief summary of them, but you don't really go into detail too much. And actually get the true ending in this, just by flitting around, and it comes up later in the video. And I was astonished by how I could get it. I was astonished by how I got it so quickly. But I think overall, in terms of presentation, because, you know, again, I thought this was a visual novel, but, you know, in terms of being a point and click where you're kind of looking at mostly static screens for the most part, it has to be visually appealing. And while I think mostly 90s anime fans will get a more rise out of it, I do think even if you just like nice looking art or visual pieces, you're gonna like this. So that right there, I touched a plant and it said new scene available. Initially, I didn't know what that was, but early on in the video, which I didn't want to talk about at that point, there's in the main menu. There's a thing where you can go scenes, and it looks like that clicking on certain objects will recall a scene to basically flesh out the girl's sort of backstory. And I believe that plant is about a boyfriend that broke up with her and like how dramatic, like how heartbreaking it was for her. So while initially you may be a little disappointed that you don't really get to know about the girls too much, like, and that's kind of my disappointment a little bit, because you have to find out about the girls through their rooms or through what's on their shelves, like that bookshelf right there, or what anime she's watching. You know, like I personally, and maybe it's just my desire for this game to be a visual novel instead of a point and click, but I think what's here does the job pretty well. And again, you can skip dialogue, so it's not too big of a deal. And that last ending I got, I just find I started laughing so hard because all I did was sat on the chair. That's all I did. I don't know why that gets me an ending where like the police assume I died, like falling from a chair. I don't understand it, but I find it funny that was the thing. You know, so yeah. You can just click on certain things. You can just click on things, and you have to be observant. Again, this isn't. I played it late, so if there's things on the floor that you don't see me clicking, it's because I was really tired, and I probably should have held off to the next day to record some of the footage, but it just didn't work out that way. So yeah, and the fun part for me, once I understood the rules of the game, I was like, oh, okay, well let's do this now, let's do that now. What happens if I do this? What happens if I go the opposite direction? And that's gonna, you know, vary from person to person. But again, I think because I only have 3 rooms to explore with not much to do in said rooms, or not much to do, but my choices of what to click are limited. It allows for quick experimentation. Well, I don't mind that I messed up and got an ending, because I can just go back and do it again. It's not a big deal. As you can see, I'm struggling to click the screwdriver, which I don't know why I didn't just click it. I do eventually click it later. One little note is that I love when he right here when she turns on the AC, you actually can't hear her for a minute, which I think is really funny. The only thing that really kind of bugs me about, like, not bugs me, but sort of like throws me off about this game is the whole idea about the panty thing. To me, if this was just about a guy who wants to find love and he happens to run into these girls and helps them for their favor and he finds out more about them, I think that would have been interesting. Versus like, you know, like, oh, she must be this kind of person because this fabric told me. That's my only complaint. Is that I wish you could know more about Haruka just by talking to her versus inferring stuff and her kind of reinforcing that inferment, which doesn't really happen in real life. But what am I talking about? This is a game that takes place in the mid-90s. But I think it's interesting. I think overall it works for the most part. Again, maybe that's obviously an intentional choice to not tell you too much about the girls. Maybe that's supposed to come in later with the hot spring episode. I don't know. I'll have to get there at that point. As you can see, you can learn more about her. But I just wanted to talk to her, I guess. You know. But I do love, you can see in the left-hand corner, just a little fun trivia for y'all. You can see a little Sailor Moon, and then I think the other, I can't recognize the other anime, but that the one on the right, just to the left of Haruka, you can see it's clearly a Sailor Moon poster, which I don't know how they got away with putting that there, but okay, that's fine. Another minor complaint is, and it doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes the subtitles don't match the voiceover or the voice acting, and that throws me off enough to where I'm like, well, wait, that's not what she said, and that's something what she said. For the most part, and there's some spelling errors, but those are minor complaints. Like if you have the voices on, you're not gonna be paying attention to the voice acting, to the subtitles too much, unless you think you missed something. I mean, personally, for me, I watch so much subbed anime that I do that anyways. So I guess it's even more apparent than ever. But this is how I got the perfect ending right here. I just kept talking to her, and I wish this conversation, like, this is a nice start, right? Like, she just talks about her favorite about this anime she wants, and you sort of bond over that. And I wish you could talk to more about her other stuff, because clearly, according to her bookshelf, she has interest in more things, but the game only allows you to, yeah, even she says it right there, anime is just a pleasant pastime. You know, and I want to know more about her. Maybe, and there's not much to her character, and that might not be, you know, that might be a turnoff for some people, and maybe the fact the fact that she likes anime, is enough of a selling point. Lord knows that was probably me back in high school. Like, oh my god, a girl likes anime, instant date her, or waifu for life. But we weren't saying waifu back in the 90s. Yeah, that was not a word back in the 90s. I wish it was though.
Oh, I totally forgot to do something. I'll be back in a few minutes.
And here's where she leaves. And fun thing you can do that I show off later is that when she's gone, you can actually click the diary, which is just right below the fern. I think that's a fern. I don't know my plants. And and this is sort of where the gamey element, the more traditional point-click adventure stuff comes in, where you have to click the shelf cases in a specific order to, like, unlock something, which I thought that was fun. I cheated a little bit, and I took a picture of the order, and I would just unpause and repause to figure out, okay, how do I do it? Because I don't do well with timers. I traditionally don't like timers. The good news is you could just skip it all, which I think I do momentarily. I'm not sure. It's been 2 days since I recorded this footage. Maybe I don't. No, doesn't look like I do. I just, past me, just sat through it all. I think I just wanted to absorb more of the ambiance. I think she'll actually kick you out if you don't have the VHS fixed. I think, and then that'll get you another ending. I could be completely wrong. Yeah, and that's how you get the true ending. Funny enough, it's not hard. I figured getting the true ending would be a lot more difficult, but that's not the game's goal. The game's goal is to not reward you through love just by talking to somebody. No. You gotta look at her underwear because you gotta be that way. And I kind of wish that the main character, Kenji, was a bit more like a blank slate, but he kind of has his own personality, so it's kind of like, usually with games like these, I like to insert myself in there, but because there's enough of a personality in there, it's kind of hard to do that. Like, I know I personally wouldn't be doing this, because it's just, you know, I wouldn't use his method at all. You know, but that's just me. That's a me thing. Another thing is that every time you get a scene, you can actually look at this artwork, and again, I think it's aesthetically pleasing. I think it's nice art. Whatever artist they got to replicate this style, either grew up in the 90s and that was what they watched, or, you know, they got somebody who could do reference art, you know, who can channel that sort of energy, because they did a real great job of bringing this to life. And there's nothing better than bonding over anime. It's you know, there's nothing better than that. Yeah, you find love at the first spot, but again, it's a disappointment to him because he doesn't find the underwear. Which I'm like, I mean, you got to watch anime with a pretty girl, you know, like what more could you want, my guy? And you kind of, and here's, you get this sort of the dump where he kind of sort of makes his own his own statements about her and what he thinks about her, you know, and I kind of like that this is a true ending, because after all, you don't need to look at somebody's underwear unless they give you permission to judge what kind of person they are. You can just trust them. So yeah, I was, as you can see coming up right, I believe. Yeah, so this is the kicker. This is how you progress. So in order to go to the next chapter, you have to find a minimum, at least at the Haruka, and it does change as you go further on. Like the minimum requirement goes up and up and up in order to progress the story, or move on to the next chapter rather, you have to find a minimum number of panties or underwear rather to continue. Which I thought that was like okay, interesting. As you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 types. I do find all three. I did find all three in sort of my first run. I think I show off one of them. I initially was going to show off the other two, but I was like, you know what? Nah, let y'all figure it out. I had to figure this out for myself. And this right here is just a fun goof. So I did the same thing. I got into the bath, and you know, I just thought it was funny. I sit down on the chair, and even though she's right there, I fall, and I die off by falling off the chair, which I find ecstatic. So this game comes out, I believe, August the 28th. It's available on the Switch, PS4, PS Vita, I believe, too. And I think it's on Steam as well. And I again, if you like 90s anime and you like that 90s aesthetic, or you're looking, you know, with so many intense games coming out within the next couple of months, and you want something that's a little bit more on the relaxing side, well, I encourage you to buy this. You know, there's nothing wrong with playing a game for relaxation. And there you go. There's the first pair of underwear that I found. But yeah, I think they perfectly nailed their aesthetic, and I'm looking forward to playing more. And I'll be talking about it on the Chart Shot Gamescast, which you can follow at twitter.com/thechartshot, I believe. And you can follow me at twitter.com/marvelousiggy, where I'll be tweeting about this game. No spoilers, of course, but probably some nice screenshots and everything. But in the meantime, thank you for watching this video. And as always, stay marvelous. Have a good night, everybody.